The Inn at Little Washington is a special place, one that Amy and I have discussed many times since our meal at the 3 Michelin-star restaurant located on the property. As the only restaurant with this designation in the Washington, D.C. area, an experience there starts with a 1.5-hour drive into Virginia's picturesque countryside where you'll be greeted by a charming inn surrounded by historic buildings. The rest of the night at this fantastic restaurant is anything but what we expected. Here's our time at the Inn at Little Washington.
Let's go.
This is not one of those places you just show up for, as you have to get a reservation and drive an hour and a half outside of the metro area of Washington, D.C. to the small town of Washington, Virginia, which was established in 1796. Upon arriving, you'll get an understanding of the history that just oozes from this experience. The Inn at Little Washington basically owns the entire downtown area, with a lot of the historic buildings being used for hotel rooms or for other event space. You can read about each of the buildings with the historic plaques that are situated in front of them. 3 Michelin-star restaurants are supposed to be something that's worth planning an entire trip around, and what I immediately experience here is that it just feels historic. I feel like I'm in the countryside in England, only an hour away from Washington, D.C. Before heading in for our reservation, we decided to explore the grounds a little bit, starting with the garden where they grow over 100 different plants that they use in their dishes. Next to that, they have a bunch of animals, including a llama, which is always my wife's favorite.
First llama is Noel, second llama is Marcus.
I don't know, if I was a chicken, I think I might like to live there. That looks pretty opulent. After exploring the surrounding countryside, we headed back to the inn where you could see into the window and watch the chefs at work. By then it was time for our reservation, and we walked over to the front of the inn and were shown to our table. The first thing you notice when you walk in is how historic and fine dining the restaurant feels, but then you open the menu and you start to see some of the funny quotes and photos that you have, and you can tell they like to have a little bit of fun with the experience, which was very welcomed. Almost immediately when we sat down, they brought us a welcome bite, and then they came over to get our drink order. I went with a glass of wine and Amy went with a cocktail. If you haven't seen one of my fine dining videos before, check them all out in the description, and note that I'm not reviewing each of the individual dishes, just talking about the experience as a whole. The first dish had a roasted garlic custard and a sun-choked puree. It had a layer of mushrooms and then a Parmesan foam on top.
I wish there was more. That was a good start to the meal.
Following that, a selection of breads came around.
You have miniature baguettes, hand-rolled in poppy seeds, sourdough from a 140-year-old starter, butter wash Parker house rolls, and last but not least, a salted rye.
We were also served a selection of butter and salt to go with it, and they came back multiple times during the meal to offer more bread if you wanted more. From there, the main dishes started, and mine was a foie gras encased in a poached pear, and Amy went with the upgrade to get caviar with Chesapeake crab. Both were well done and delicious, but the unique textures and flavors of the one I got was a huge standout. Our next dish was a carpaccio of big-eyed tuna and swordfish with wasabi sorbet and puffed wild rice.
This dish has wasabi ice cream. So good.
Our next course was a chartreuse of savory cabbage and Maine lobster with a caviar beurre blanc.
I didn't realize I was going to have caviar 2 times tonight. Not upset about it.
Following that was our main course, which was a selection of 3 different types of meat.
Pork, chicken, duck.
It was served with family-style sides of Carolina rice and a snow pea salad with orange and sesame. We both really enjoyed seeing how they prepared each of these meats so differently.
Cheese cart is up next.
Can't wait to see the cow.
If you know anything about this restaurant, then you probably know that the cheese cart here is something that they're known for.
What's up?
You'll see the cow moving its way through the restaurant to other patrons multiple times a night. They give you a selection of 5 different cheeses, and you can either tell them what you want or allow them to pick for you. The highlight though is Cameron himself, who loves cheese and has a pun for every single cheese that he provides.
And then the Allman Brothers showed up. They said, "I'll cash you later." Well, have a happy cheese stir Sunday.
Man.
Watch out for those bunny rabbits.
I don't know if I've ever seen you so giggly, but the man had a comment or a joke in every single line. That is impressive.
He had a way with words. 2 thumbs up.
I honestly don't even remember what kind of cheese he gave us because I was having too much fun with the experience, and I would definitely say it was a night highlight for me. Following that was George Washington's Pawpaw Posset.
So the pawpaw was George Washington's favorite fruit, and he planted a bunch of pawpaw trees on his home, which is just a little bit of ways from here.
Have you ever had a pawpaw before?
No, I have absolutely no idea what that actually is. But citrusy and sweet. I would have not said it was a pawpaw. I would have probably said it was like orange.
Our last dish of the night was one of the highlights, which is called Apparently a Pear. This is a pear cheesecake that's served with a poached pear in the middle, and the entire process of creating this dish takes about 3 days. On the last day, it's painted with an edible spray paint to make it look like a pear even though it's a cake, and I would say that this is pretty much a work of art. By the time our meal was done, we were one of the last people to leave the restaurant, and we were offered a kitchen tour before we left. On the way, we made sure to say hi to our cow buddy, which was one of the night's highlights. These kitchen tours are always one of my favorite parts about the Michelin dining experience. Each of these kitchens are different and immaculate in their own right, and this was easily one of my favorite with the copper and silver tones. One of the highlights was the 5 words that were painted on the ceiling that they say are the 5 pillars of hospitality. They are anticipation, trepidation, inspection, fulfillment, and evaluation. Special shout out to Patrick O'Connell, who's the chef of the restaurant and who's created such a great menu and a fun atmosphere to enjoy it in. It's even pretty leaving the restaurant.
It really is. I feel like I need to go for a nice stroll.
That's it for our time at the Inn at Little Washington. What'd you think?
It was delicious food, high level, but they didn't take themselves too seriously, and that was really fun.
Yeah, the cheese whiz, that was worth the price of admission right there. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one. If you like these videos, be sure to let us know in the comments, and you can see the other fine dining videos we've done in the description.